Hey everybody, are you ready for another Facebook Live session? It is time. According to my clock, I might be a little bit off. If so, I'll wait a minute to see who joins me. It is now 7 o'clock and it's time for Earthsuit Maintenance number 8. Tonight we're going to talk about the pancreas and diabetes and what the connection is. Hi, I am Wendy Fargo. I am the founder of Crooked House Herbals, and I am a master herbalist and an educator. And I'm here to talk to you for a few minutes about something that may be of interest to some of you. Hi from Florida. I'm happy to see that you guys finally got your furniture. After 15 months being in another country, they have finally gotten their furniture. It's very exciting. So for that reason, we will not be having one of Amanda's beautiful little drawings tonight. She's been busy unpacking boxes, but we'll cut her some slack. We'll see you next week. So tonight we're going to talk about something that is probably really common. I fortunately am blessed with a nice strong pancreas, but every time I turn around I am running across people that have diabetes, and they have this and they have that, and so it's kind of made me want to look into some what ifs, and why is it? When I taught school, it was the same thing. It was like, how come there are so many kids? I'm teaching middle school, and why are there so many children that are coming into my class that have diabetes? And they're like 11. And they're morbidly obese, yet they are on the free lunch program. I just, things sometimes don't click with me, and so there are some connections, and we're going to talk about some things tonight that may be of interest. We'll see. But first of all, let's talk about, for those of you that aren't even sure where your pancreas is located in your body, let's talk about it for a minute, and where it is, what it connects up to, and what its function is. Because I know a lot of people, the only time they ever hear a pancreas is when somebody was in a car wreck and they said, yeah, he had some damage to his pancreas, or when somebody has pancreatic cancer. That's the only time you ever hear about it. So let's just talk a little bit about that for a second. It's located behind the lower part of the stomach. It's right where, it's right in front of the spine. And it's like your first connection right as it's going into the duodenum. So you've got it's a weird shaped thing. I don't know if you guys noticed my posts throughout the week, but I put a picture up there and I said, does anybody know what this is? Because it's kind of a funny shaped organ, and it's pretty small. So, but it's very powerful, and it again it speaks to the amazing way that our bodies are created. Nobody, no computer, no machine could ever put a human together like we are made. So anyway, the pancreas, the role of the pancreas is it has it deals with two different systems in our body. It deals with the endocrine system, and it deals with the exocrine system. And both of those are super important. The endocrine system has to do with our hormones and chemicals that are delivered to the blood to help regulate our mood, to help us grow, to deal with our metabolism, the way we metabolize food, whether or not we can reproduce. That all comes through from our endocrine system. And the two hormones that are produced by pancreas are insulin and glucagon. Glucagon. So It's got two things that it cranks out. The exocrine system, though, is made up of all these little glands that release substances into, like sweat, you know, and saliva and digestive hormones. That's what your exocrine system does. So both of those are really important. If you can't sweat, you got serious problems. If you've got, if you can't, what am I trying to say? You know, if you don't have saliva in your mouth, that your saliva is your first point of digestion. So that's why Dr. Christopher used to always tell us to chew your juice, chew your apple cider vinegar, chew whatever you put in your mouth, especially if it's a liquid. Don't just gulp it down, but swish it around in your mouth and connect it with your saliva, because your saliva has these juices in it that your pancreas has sent up that begin your digestive process. So that's why people that scarf their food down, I mean, they literally eat in 2 minutes and you go, whoa. First of all, how could you have enjoyed that? Second of all, none of that hit your saliva, so it's going to hit your gut like a ton of bricks, and you're going to have a stomach ache. You know, you're going to have indigestion. You're going to have, because you have to give the saliva, you have to mix your saliva with what you're eating so that those enzymes can start breaking down your food and getting it where it needs to go. It just makes sense. And I know I used to be one of the worst offenders with that, because as a teacher, they give you a whole whopping 30 minutes for lunch, and it takes you 10 minutes to get wherever it is you have to eat. You know, whether it's down at the break room or wherever. So if you count 10 minutes for getting somewhere or going to the restroom, then you've got 20 minutes to eat something. And so you get to where you eat very fast as a teacher. And I would, you know, after lunch, I would go, my stomach would hurt. So I just got to where I just started bringing a little lunchbox full of snacks, and I just kind of snack all day, and I wouldn't really worry about eating at lunchtime because it was too much. I mean, I couldn't eat. I would eat so fast I'd be sick. So the pancreas deals with those two, sends juices to both of those systems, your endocrine system and your exocrine system. So what does that mean to you? Well, first of all, if you don't have a functioning pancreas, I mean, most of the time people, they don't think about their pancreas doing all of these things for their body. Okay, we haven't even gotten to the diabetes part, but this is how important this little organ is. When most people think of the systems in their body that help regulate digestion and hormones, they don't think about the pancreas. They think about other organs in our body that regulate those things as well. But the pancreas plays a major role in both areas of health. So it's responsible for producing the digestive enzymes, like I told you, but which helps you break down your food. But it's also the first point in your small intestine. I mean, your intestine. That's your first. It's your first connection. So it produces hormones that break down the foods and get it down to where it needs to be. But it also produces hormones that support and regulate your blood sugar, because that's all part of your digestion. So when your pancreas is off, your blood sugar is going to be off. I mean off. And depending on how long your pancreas has been limping along and maybe not firing on all cylinders, you could have a serious blood sugar issue, or you could have just, you know, like every now and then it gets kind of wonky. It just depends on how long you have been functioning with a partially functioning pancreas. So that's how that happens. Now, we all know, because we've been together now long enough, that things don't happen overnight usually, unless you get hit by a car, right? So your body, if you have all of a sudden developed something, let's say an intolerance for something or something, it wasn't all of a sudden. It's been coming for a while. And that's why people will say, you know, you go to the doctor and the first thing the doctor says, well, you know, you're borderline diabetic. Well, that freaks everybody out. And they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be diabetic. All he's saying is your pancreas isn't very healthy. Because your body is not metabolizing. Your body is not balancing your blood, your sugar production and your sugar absorption. So you're either getting too much or too little. And that's your pancreas's job. It also works hand in hand with your liver. So it's responsible for producing insulin. The cells that produce insulin are beta cells. Okay? They are cells, they're distributed like in clusters, groups of cells. And the insulin is a hormone that helps you regulate your blood sugar. Everybody's heard about insulin, right? Yeah, I mean, if you've watched TV for 10 minutes, you've heard about insulin. But it regulates your blood sugar levels by assisting the transport of glucose through your blood into the neighboring cells. In other words, distributing it evenly, right? So that little organ is constantly working because your blood is constantly pumping. Now, type 1 diabetes, the beta cells that produce the insulin are usually malfunctioning for some reason. I don't like it when people say being attacked by your body, because your body doesn't attack itself. We're not wired that way. It's not created to do that. But it will detect a cell or something in your body that appears to be foreign or not supposed to be there, whatever that is, and it will start to work to remove it. But it doesn't just turn on itself and eat itself up or attack itself. I disagree with that. So that's like wrong terminology. I don't even think when, you know, professionals say that, that's really what they mean to say, but maybe they just don't know how to say it any other way that laymen would understand. But as more beta cells die off or get killed off or however you want, the pancreas will struggle to produce more and then, you know, more insulin to make up for the loss, and the blood sugar levels in your body will drop and you'll start experiencing symptoms. Okay, it's not because all of a sudden you it's not all of a sudden anything. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. You don't just all of a sudden become diabetic. You don't all of a sudden have acute pancreatitis. It comes in time. So that's actually good news, because you can undo it, right? I mean, if we know that it's taken a while to get here, we also know that it'll take a while to unget here, but we also know that we get new cells every 11 months. So we can work on it. And we can actually undo the process. It's not going to happen overnight, because it didn't come to you. Didn't get these symptoms overnight. If you think you did, you're delusional, because nothing like that happens overnight. Like I said, unless you get hit by a car or fall off a ladder, you know, most of the things that happen to our body happen over time. Okay? Unless you want to talk about viruses. But we won't. Okay. Okay, so even if all of your beta cells get killed off, or a lot of them, you know, a large number of them, your body, your pancreas, that tough little guy, he will still continue to produce small amounts of insulin, even for decades. And that's why I said you can limp along for quite some time with just like marginal, you know, minimal symptoms, and not really have anything whammy you because your pancreas is really strong and it's cranking it out. But eventually it's going to become exhausted. And when your pancreas goes teats up, you got problems. And you know, you can live without your pancreas, but what happens? You're going to have to take insulin for the rest of your life. So, the type 2, okay, that's type 1. Type 2 diabetes is where the body builds up a resistance to your insulin. You're making enough, but it's not absorbing, it's not using it. It's actually resisting it. That's another situation, and that's not necessarily your pancreas's fault, right? I mean, it's producing the insulin. The problem is your body's not using it the way it's supposed to. If your pancreas can no longer produce enough insulin to bring down your blood sugar levels, then your symptoms of diabetes are going to start happening. Type 2 diabetes comes very gradually. It can take years for you to get those symptoms because it's a slow process. It's a result of a weakening pancreas. Okay, so it's, you know, this year it's producing this much. Next year it's producing this much. Next year it's producing this much. So you don't really notice anything until you get down to, you know, in your middle ages. Whatever that is. So my question was, okay, so how come I have these 12-year-olds in my class that have diabetes? If it's taking years for it to happen naturally, there has to be something that's going on that, you know, we can pinpoint and say, maybe this is it. Okay? I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Fortunately, we get new cells, and if we can nourish and support our pancreas, we can rebuild. That's the good news. The news that nobody really wants to hear is the fact that your standard American diet, which acronyms out as SAD, is killing you in more ways than one. And when you have children that grow up on chicken nuggets and fish sticks and hamburgers and don't even know what a bowl of salad or green beans or broccoli or a fresh peach tastes like, are they going to have healthy pancreases? Are their livers going to be strong? No, not at all. And if they're allowed to have Coke at every meal and they're sucking down just processed food and sugar and sugar and sugar, macaroni and cheese, hello. And that's what, you know, a lot of like latchkey kids, that's their diet. It's whatever can come out of a box or a can or the freezer. So by the time they're 15, they're diabetic. What kind of a legacy are we leaving for the kids? Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. But yes, primarily, a lot of this can be alleviated with diet. And that takes effort, and that takes consistent effort. That takes habits, forming habits, going through your house and getting rid of crap, and then the first time you crave it, you don't go run get it again. You put something else healthy in your mouth. Or you have a cup of tea. And if you have children at home and they just, you know, hey, you created that monster, right? I mean, I remember my kids didn't even have candy until, well, my oldest, he had no candy until he was like 2.5, and his grandfather came to visit for the first time. He'd never seen him, and he came from Florida to visit and fell in love with Justin, and just, oh, you know, and I was like, I was not going to be the one to have to burst that bubble, but he would go, he went to the, he showed up with bags of candy, and he had M&Ms, and he had all this candy, and of course Justin You know, he never had that stuff. And so I told Grandpa, I said, now Justin hasn't had candy, and I really don't want him to have a lot of candy, because after you leave, I'm not going to buy him any. So do this sparingly, you know, so that you don't, you know, I knew I was going to have to undo some stuff, but that kid ate so much candy that week, I thought he was going to explode. And I think about that, and I think about how many, you know, I undid it, and I regulated it, and got it back under control. You know, we got back on the right track. Fortunately, he had good eating habits already. The child loved salad. He liked vegetables. He liked fruit. So it was easy for me to offer him a bowl of strawberries, and he was going to be happy with that. I may have to put a little whipped cream on it, but you know what I mean? It was he was already established. But when you're raising kids on fast food diets, and I'll be home at 8, so fix yourself whatever you're going to fix yourself to eat kind of living, you've created the monster. So shame on you. But you can change it. And you can, it doesn't have to happen overnight, but you do need to start being aware that you have organs in your body that are trying as hard as they can to do their job. And you need to give them some help and some tools. All right? So, according to the National Pancreas Foundation, yes, there is one, the leading cause of both acute and chronic pancreatitis in the United States is chronic alcohol consumption. It also said there, and one of the things I was reading, that men are more at risk than women for pancreatic cancer. So, there are some other risk factors, some obesity, which kind of goes along with what we're talking about anyway. I mean, we wouldn't have obesity issues if we didn't eat the way we eat. And we have bought in to the propaganda all of our lives. We've been told that milk is your best source of calcium. We are the only species that drinks milk after we've nursed, after we've weaned. And not only that, we drink it from another animal, a cow. We're the only species that does that. I have goats. Okay, my goats nurse their babies, and when those babies are done, they don't drink my dog's whatever, or they don't drink cow's milk. They don't drink their mama's milk all their life. They nurse until they're 4 or 5 months old, maybe, and then they're done. And they are, well, I mean, actually 4 months old, they're done. So then they're on their own, and that's the way it works. And we are the same way. Why we ever, okay, so we're waking up, right? We're waking up to the fact that Big Pharma has screwed up our lives pretty bad. And we've bought into a lot of the lies there, and we're starting to understand that a lot of the things that we've been told are not necessarily true. And the same thing has happened with agriculture and with the big industries like dairy. Okay? Milk, yeah, we love our cheese. And cheese is made from milk. But we don't need to drink milk to get good calcium. Some of the best calcium that you can assimilate in your body, that you can use so well, comes from plants. Oat straw. Lots of ways to get the things that we need, that we don't have to go this other route. So pay attention a little bit more about what you've learned all through your life. We've all been told that. Drink your milk, it's good for your bones. Well, yeah, but it's not necessarily good for the rest of your body. And mucus-forming foods are disease suckers, okay? If you have too much mucus in your body, you're going to, things are going to stick in there that don't need to be in there. You need a clean machine. You don't need a gooey machine. So think about that when you're eating and when you're drinking. Instead of going for the milk, I mean, I have almond milk in my refrigerator. I drink plant-based milk. I don't really drink it, I just use it on stuff. You know, I don't ever really drink a lot of milk, but if I want some milk, I will drink almond milk. I like the taste. But there are also different kinds of plant-based milks. There's oat milk, there's cashew milk, there's almond milk, I don't recommend soy, only because the soy is pretty much genetically modified. So I don't recommend using soy products much, but that's your call. Anyway, obesity, okay? So everything contributes to that. It's not just one thing. And I'm sorry, but you cannot blame it on your genetic makeup. That's not going to fly either, because you don't know where those genes, what the previous generation was doing. So you don't know how much of that is really genetic. Exposure to certain chemicals can damage your pancreas, which I know some people that work in different chemical type businesses, and it is something that you need to be aware of. And if that's the case, you need to detox more. You need to do more regular detoxing. Gender, like I said, the men have a tendency to be more at risk. According to the American Cancer Society, they're more at risk for the pancreatic cancer. The only people I've ever known that have had pancreatic cancer were men, now that I think about it. Okay, so the endocrine component of the pancreas consists of the cells that create and release those hormones directly into your bloodstream. Okay, that's our little chugger pancreas at work. And we talked about the two main hormones. Now, raising and lowering your blood sugar is just one of the things it does. It also maintains, if you don't have the right blood sugar level in your body, it's going to affect your kidneys, it's going to affect your brain, it's going to affect your liver, all those key organs. So, when you've had a high blood sugar issue or a low blood sugar occurrence, and you all of a sudden get kind of foggy, or you feel dizzy like you're going to pass out, those are all neurological things that are going on as a result of not having enough blood sugar in your blood, the right kind of sugar. Okay? So, it's important that your pancreas is strong and in good shape. Another theory, okay, so diabetes occurs when your pancreas stops producing insulin, basically. Okay? Or your body is unable to use the insulin that it is producing. Both of them result in glucose, which is your body's fuel. It's your gas. It's what makes you go. Okay? It's not being absorbed by your cells. And it's either building up in your bloodstream and you're not able to use it the way you need to, or you're not getting enough. Okay? Those are the two extremes. So, another theory is that diabetes occurs when the glucose can't get through to the cells because of high levels of fat in the body. Nobody wants to talk about that one. So, when you have a high fat diet, you're creating some barriers that are probably going to cause you some problems at some point down the road. Now, I'm going to clarify that, because there are good fats that actually do wonders for your body. And those kinds of fats are avocados, olive oil, coconut oil, certain nuts. Those kinds of fats are good for you. Now, that doesn't mean that you sit down and you eat, a whole avocado every day, because that can actually be hard on your kidneys. But when you go for fat, go for coconut oil, olive oil, peanuts are okay, avocados, those kinds of natural fats are better than the butter and, the canola oil, which is not a good oil to have. Those kinds of things are, the highly processed things that you see and what most people grab. Try to avoid those kinds of fats and use the good clean fats. You can Google it and you can find a good list of good fats for you to do. Now, the next thing I want to do, and then we will be done, is I want to go over really quickly a list of herbs because that's what I do. And I want to tell you about some herbs that are really good food for your pancreas. So when you get ready to map out a plan for yourself, you can include some of these herbs. Okay? And I'm not going to spend a ton of time. You can download this document and it'll have all this on there. Okay? But burdock. Burdock is one of my favorites. I use it a lot in a lot of the things that I make because it's a blood cleanser. So if you are dealing with some toxins or maybe high fat levels, you know, those kinds of things, burdock would be a good one to start integrating into your routine because it is a really good blood cleanser. Really, really good. Milk thistle is total liver food. It's one of the best things for cleansing your liver. Okay? Red clover, same thing. Blood cleanser. So good. And red clover tea is wonderful. I love it. It's one of my favorites. Cedar berries. Now this is one that Dr. Christopher used to always talk about because cedar berries, now they're different than juniper berries, okay? The red cedar berries, normally they're like a western tree. The red cedars. We do have red cedars though here. I have them on my property. And those berries contain large amounts of very healthy nutrients. The berries are known to be effective in improving your body functions that have to do with digestion and pancreas, your pancreatic system. So I use red cedar berries in my Panc Repair tincture. I use them in a couple of the other things that I make. And I listed those on the paper. On the document for you as well. If you want to take a look, I have 3 or 4 different, I hope that made it on there, different products that I make available. Panc Repair is one of them. And I have some good testimonies from people that have had quite a dramatic change in their blood sugar levels and their overall pancreatic health as a result of using Panc Repair. Gentian is another one. The roots of gentian can stimulate your pancreas, your gallbladder, your mucous membranes of the stomach, and it will help to create more of your pancreatic enzymes that you need. It also, your pancreas works hand in hand with your liver, and so between the pancreatic enzymes and the bile that your liver creates, that's how you digest your food. That's why I'm always telling you, if you want to do a liver detox, that you need to make sure that you try to eat a mono diet. Try to eat just like one thing at a time. I always use the example of, a whole watermelon. And, but don't mix and, don't make this beautiful plate of food and then say, okay, liver, go at it. Because if you're trying to detox your liver, you're running toxins through your liver at a pretty good clip. You don't need to be giving it all kinds of other stuff that it has to digest and work on. You need to simplify your diet and give your liver a chance to detox and push all those toxins through and have a good result. Otherwise, it might not be that pleasant trying to detox your liver, okay? Because you're tanking it with stuff. When I was going through the detox that I went through when I had cancer, same thing. I had to do coffee enemas. I had to give my liver assistance because I was pushing so much toxin through my liver that I didn't want to kill it. I didn't want to tank my liver. So I was assisting that way. It wasn't all that fun, but I knew what I was doing, and I was willing to do that to make sure I had a strong liver when I came out the other side. So gentian will help with that. It also helps with your stomach acid levels and that kind of stuff. Good herb. It's blueberry leaves. Okay, blueberries are rich in several different things that, or the huckleberry leaves if you're in that part of the country, and some myrtle trees even. So it's also present in the enzyme that's in blueberry leaves is also present in oatmeal. Dandelion root, of course, is one of the best things for your liver, but it's also really good for your pancreas as well, and it helps to flush out your intestines, and it will help if you have damaged pancreatic tissues. It will actually help to restore and repair a lot of that damage. So dandelion root tea, dandelion root is, you know, it's good. A tincture. I put dandelion root in my liver detox tea. It's very good. Licorice root is another one that I use in both my pancreas repair and my kidney kindness, and it's in my liver detox as well, because it is extremely effective for pancreatic disorders. It supports all your glandular functions, but it's and it's widely used in all forms of, you know, non-traditional medicine. It's packed full of anti-inflammatory compounds as well. That's why you'll see, if you read the ingredients in a lot of my products, you'll see I have licorice root in a lot of them, because it's a broad spectrum, really good herb. I mix it with slippery elm for people who have IBS and who have, you know, digestion issues. I use licorice root with that, so that's a good one. Oregano. Oregano is another one that will help with, if you've got pancreatic issues, like if you've got a stall, or if you've got, you know, just have some irregularities. So, and oregano, as we have learned, is good for a lot of things. It's very antiviral. So that's one that you could, you know, you could already start including if you're using it in, you know, for other purposes. That one's already doing you some good. Stinging nettle, the root of the stinging nettle. I use stinging nettle. I use the whole plant for different things, but stinging nettle root is one of those sources that I was telling you about that is a super rich source of calcium. Really good calcium. It's also got chromium, it's got magnesium, it's like a balance. It's awesome. So this herb is an alkalizing herb, and it's useful because it's of its nutritive value. You know, it's super dense nutrition. It's got good minerals in it. Uva ursi, or bearberry is another name for it. It's an excellent herb for your adrenals, and for diabetes, Bright's disease. It assists in controlling kidney and bladder congestion. So if you are prone to bladder infections, Uva ursi is a good one for you to include in that kind of stuff. Mullein, another one of my faves. And it's typically used for respiratory issues and lung, you know, like moistening your lung tissue, and but it has a real soothing effect on mucous membranes, brains, all through your body. So mullein is something good to add. I like to put it in, you know, a lot of my combinations and in my teas. Cayenne pepper. Ta-da! You know that one. It is so good for your digestion. It's so good for your pancreas. We've learned about cayenne pepper over and over and over, and it is one of those broad spectrum, covers a lot of bases, herbs. It's good because it dilates your capillaries and your veins, gets your blood flowing. It will build and rebuild the structure of your veins to make them stronger and clean them out, and you just can't really go wrong with cayenne pepper. So that one needs to be involved as well. Cat's claw is another one that's very good for reducing blood sugar levels, but I will give you a caveat with that. If you have gallstones, you might want to avoid that herb, because it doesn't do too well with gallstones, but it is real good for balancing blood sugar. Devil's claw is. Okay, there's one other thing. Nobody's exactly sure all the functions that are performed by sulfur, in the body, but we do know that it's contained in certain hormones. So this is a substance given off by the glands in your body. Sulfur is given off by the glands in your body, such as insulin, pituitary hormone, pancreatic hormones. We don't really know that much about sulfur, but we know that if you can get sulfur in, like, assimilatable sulfur from foods, you should try to do that, because I think that's one of the things that's kind of missing in our SAD diet, our standard American diet, is some of those little nuances like sulfur. And it's funny because I always avoid it, because when growing up I was allergic to sulfa, right? And so anything that sounds like that, even, it was like, ooh, I don't know. But it's one of those little magical floaty things that kind of helps keep things in balance. So here's some of the foods that have sulfur in them, and you might just want to up the intake a little. Cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, dried beans, grains, garlic, onions, horseradish, dry mustard, nuts, dried peas, Swiss chard, and watercress. So those things that have that pungency to them that's what makes them like that, is the sulfur that is contained in those foods. So that's one way to tell. It's like, I think this might have sulfur. So what did we learn? We learned that the pancreas and the liver produce the juices that aid in our digestion and proper production of absorption of the sugars that go through our bloodstream. Okay? We learned that when the pancreas is malfunctioning, your glucagon and your insulin levels are going to go wonky. Okay? The best way to maintain a healthy pancreas and liver is regular detoxing of toxins, eating a diet that's heavy in the fresh vegetables and fruits, lower in the meats, and avoid processed high sugar foods altogether. Drink distilled water, and take some of the herbs that I mentioned in the list. All right? Try to avoid alcohol. If you're having 3 glasses of wine a day, cut it back. Alcohol's not your friend, especially if you are a male person, in large quantities. Okay? Moderation. Okay, Crooked House Herbals does make a few formulas that you might be interested in. One of them is called Get a Grip. It's a bladder assist tincture, and it contains marshmallow root. It contains oregano, stinging nettle, uva ursi, plantain, yellow dock, gravel root, black cohosh, hydrangea root. Both, by the way, gravel root and hydrangea root are both dissolvents, and they're what will dissolve stones in your kidneys or your gallbladder. Slippery elm, chaparral, juniper berries, chamomile, lobelia, and comfrey. That's all in that little tincture. Kidney Kindness is one that I make that's got golden seal and hydrangea, dandelion, lobelia, parsley, which is real good, horsetail grass, celery root, gravel root, uva ursi, marshmallow, red cedars, oak bark, cleavers, and plantain. Okay, that's in Kidney Kindness tincture. And the liver detox tea, and I also have it in a tincture, is milk thistle, dandelion, wormwood, black walnut, marshmallow, beet leaf, red clover, red raspberry, hibiscus, lobelia, wild yam, ginger, fennel seed, catnip, barberry, and peppermint. And then my Pancreas, which I do have, is dandelion, golden seal, uva ursi, cayenne pepper, cedar berries, licorice, mullein, oregano, and burdock. So I also included some links in the document of some articles that I found that might be interesting, that kind of recap what we talked about tonight and give you a little more information, get you started on your own research. And I hope that I have inspired you to look into some things for yourself and do your own homework. Take care of your earth suit. And I wish you guys blessings, 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 and good health. And I will see you next Thursday. All right? Bye now.